Welcome to Brainstorming. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dreampunk and deeply weird fantasy author, and yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 103 of Brainstorming. The last episode had quite a meaty introduction, packed with tips about how to avoid rejections from short story publishers and how to improve your submission. So this time, I'll make it a little bit more lightweight. Got to help maintain balance in the universe and all of that. So I'm going to talk about a tip I picked up from another podcast, Joanna Penn's The Creative Pen podcast, and that's pen with a double N. I love it. It's been going, since the noughties, although I can't quite recall when I started listening, not as long as that, but it's had more than 850 shows and she has millions of listeners. Joanna Penn writes best-selling thrillers as J.F. Penn, and she also writes books about writing and publishing, especially from an indie perspective. If you're interested in keeping tabs on what's going on in the publishing world, both traditional and indie, her podcast is the best place I've found for updates. She really has her finger on the pulse and has, after decades of experience, a real sense of how changes in traditional publishing affect what's going on in indie and vice versa. Fascinating and useful. Check it out at thecreativepen.com. Anyway, as for the tip I want to talk to you about, I was listening to a recent show, which was episode 853, which includes an interview with Ros Morris, who's been both traditionally and indie published over many years. She writes in numerous genres, including memoir. So it was interesting to hear from someone with so much experience and breadth of experience. She's also, like Joanna Penn and like me, a discovery writer, at least in the early stages of writing. And also, like me, and like Joanna Penn, creative freedom is very important to her, which is why she tends to indie publish these days. But one thing she said really stood out to me about the early stages of brainstorming an idea and deciding what to put into a story and where it's going, what it's really about. She said that lists can be very creative. If you're at the beginning of something and you've really got the itch to get writing, but you're not quite ready to take the plunge, you're not yet sure where this one's going, write a list. But not just a list about the different ideas and images or characters that come to you about the story, things that you want to go into the story. Also write a list about what you don't want your story to be. It sounds so simple, and yet sometimes I can be in the thick of an idea that feels a bit like a fog. The fog parts here and there to reveal some distinctive details. Oh, I definitely want that character to be like that, and I really like that setting. But the rest of it feels mysterious, and I can't quite join up these elements yet into a story. What is it really going to be about, and where do I want it to go? If you think about it, these things are defined just as much by what they aren't as by what they are. It was funny, in the interview, Joanna said that when she first started writing her current work in progress, called Bones of the Deep, she envisioned it as horror. But as she got into writing it, she realised it was leaning more towards a thriller instead. I think it was to do with the ending and how character arcs are resolved, and things like tone as well would be different. But quite a fundamental switch from one genre to another. Whereas I think Ros Morris was coming from the place of, well, she was initially intending to talk more about subtler changes than that, in terms of what it is and what it isn't. So if you feel lost in the fog, step back and look around at the books and stories you have loved. What is it about them that hooks you? What kind of story unfolds? Would any of those story elements work in a wish list for the story you're writing? And then, is there anything about your story or where your story could potentially go that kind of puts you off, turns you off? Sometimes our imaginations, our inspiration, sort of retracts and pulls back without us really understanding why. And an idea can start to wither and dry up because we don't understand why. But if you ask yourself, pen in hand, what do I not want in this story? What do I not want this story to be? That might help bring whatever's bothering you into the light. You can decide, I don't want to write something like that, so I'm going to write something like this. And be light-hearted about it. Be creative about it. Ideas in their earliest stages can be quite delicate, but they're also ready to sprout and change. So think about what directions you don't feel interested in. And it might just be that they're opposite, or just something distinctly different from that will be what sparks it to grow into something you cannot wait to get down on paper. Right, well, before we move on to the news story brainstorms and a couple of juicy publishing opportunities for you, I have some incredible stories and a poem to share with you, all from my talented listeners. The range this time could not be any broader. I've got all out wacky, I've got profound, and a little bit of in between. Perhaps I'll start with the in-between one before we plunge down the twisty slide of the unexpected. This first short story is from Paul Monteith, who responded to both of the prompts I suggested in the last show in combination. That is, the powerful kitsune, or fox spirit in Japanese mythology, and a general theme that cropped up from the same Exquisite Corpse, how you might use a tea set as weaponry. I mean, how could I resist such craziness? Paul wrote, a tempest, a kitsune, and a teacup. A maple tree bowed as a violent wind passed through a garden. Racing toward a house, the tempest stripped a cherry tree of its blossoms, bruising and breaking iris stems and uprooting azaleas as it passed by. The raised bamboo house shuddered as the wind rushed under and over its frame. In the house, a kitsune, unmoved by the storm, poured himself a cup of tea. Being ignored, the tempest told the storm clouds to cast dense downdrafts that pressed hard upon the house and made it moan. Unperturbed, the kitsune sipped his tea. Enraged by the fox's calmness, the tempest dashed around the garden, knocking over stone lanterns and pedestal bowls. It ruffled the surface of a pond, and the koi fish retreated to the pond bed for safety. As the storm bullied its way back to the house, it saw the fox sitting at a table, eating a sweet, red bean-filled manju. Livid with the animal's indifference, the tempest beat gustily on the door. The kitsune, holding his now empty cup, pulled the door open and stretched out his hand. A teacup to a tempest is like a red flag to a bull. The angry wind could not help itself and curled like a cat into the china cup. The fox held the vessel firmly, which shook and tugged at his grip, and then he sang soothing lullabies to calm the storm in a teacup. So neatly tied up there at the end, and it brings a whole new meaning to that phrase. I love this. I think partly what works so well about this story and the descriptions is how it begins with so much movement. You really feel the wind swirling around, contrasted with the stillness of the fox in the middle of it all. In fact, I mean, maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but these contrasts, this sort of interplay of opposites, making each other what they are by what they're not, kind of feels like the theme that I was just talking about a minute ago. Interesting. It's like the stillness of the fox is clear and sort of resonant because of its contrast to the blustering storm outside. Anyway, thank you, Paul. You can find Paul Monteith on Blue Sky as Quantum Fairy. Now, I felt an urge in the last show to put this tea set as weaponry theme out to social media to see if there were any fight scene writers who are very comfortable doing that, who are very experienced writing fight scenes, and who might want to show me and show you how this could be done. I was not disappointed. Violence follows, but using a tea set. Kyle Lee wrote, "They chased each other around the table, quickly reaching a standoff. She grabbed a hot cup of tea from the table and lobbed it at him, hitting him squarely in the nose. He screamed and grabbed his already bleeding face. The moment he looked away, she picked up the whole ceramic teapot and threw it at his head. It exploded in a hail of red and pink begonia patterning and rained boiling hot liquid down his already blistering skin. He crumpled to the floor. She grabbed the keys from the counter and rushed from the house." I love the detail, especially of the begonia patterning, so specific, and in a sort of explosive moment of desperation, kind of reminding us of this slightly ridiculous element to the fight scene. It helps underline the unplanned nature of this fight, I feel. Thank you, Kyle, and welcome to the podcast. Kyle Lee writes fantasy, and you can find him on X as Kyle Lee Writer. Adair E. Golan wrote, "Angus dodged a blow to the head, his back bumping against the kitchen table. Rolling back onto it, he put some more distance between himself and the intruder, who'd grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. All Angus had near him was a tea set. How he wished the water was boiled. Alas, this would have to do. Tossing one teacup after another, Angus used 4 distractions before snatching up the pot and tray and advancing. Steel clanged with every jab of the blade he blocked with the teapot. Sliding in close after a wide slash, he kneed the assailant, smashing the side of his head with the pot at the same time. The man stumbled back for a brief second, but Angus gave no time for recovery, slamming the edge of the tray into his throat, causing him to drop the knife and fall into a coughing fit. For one final blow, he brought down the teapot, denting it. Breathing heavily, he let the final piece of the ruined set clatter on the kitchen tiles, bending down to pull off the unconscious man's mask." Now, this one is quite different because it's narrated by a protagonist who clearly has experience, who's thinking about his moves and even regrets that lack of boiling water in the teapot. I like how we slip into his thoughts. He just kind of manages to push past the ridiculousness of the situation to get the job done. So you get a sense of that character. Thank you, Adair, and also welcome to the show. Adair E. Golan writes a blend of magical realism and dark comedy, and you can find him on X with that name. from the wacky and violent to the sublime. You may remember from episode 101, the velvety sleuth, a very strange word combination that cropped up. Elena Dennison responded to this with a poem called Epitaph for Cool Ruth, the Velvety Sleuth. Here lies cool Ruth, the velvety sleuth, forever in search of life's hidden truths. Seeker of answers to unanswered questions, she gathers her clues through rhythm and blues, and bright-spun webs of wild revelations, praising the Lord with bold intonations. In shadowy veiled, velvet-lined booths, where folk soak their doubts in gin and vermouth. Farewell, cool Ruth, the velvety sleuth, your path shines on through dark earthly delights to celestial blues, where God leaves fresh clues for you to pursue. Beautiful, such rhythm and so much assonance. There's a real sense of mystery here, like a life glimpsed through these hints and images. Thank you, Elena. Elena Dennison writes poetry, and you can find her Linktree at linktr.ee/Lola the Cat. Right, let's dip our hands and our minds into the never-ending inkwell of dreams, also known as the Socks of Destiny. That's right, Exquisite Corpse mixes your words and phrases into a sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. I'll play 3 rounds to create 3 very weird sentences, drawing on different ideas that might pop into my mind along the way. Then there will be a second round of brainstorms where I'll try and pick a word combination that comes up and roll a dice to choose a couple of categories of interpretation. So, it is with some trepidation that I reach into the describing word sock. Our first word is from Sean, also known as Blue Wizard Fags, romantic. Okay, let's try for a noun. This is from Paul Monteith. Jelly mould. Actually, that could work, literally. Let's just see what's going on here. This is very strange. An action from Anonymous. Swindled. I have never known a jelly mould to swindle anything, but sometimes you have to step aside from the initial literal interpretation and see what happens, because anything can happen on this show. Right, next word is from, they're all trying to climb out of the sock. Me. Yes, sometimes I just can't resist. Thickly forested. Oh gosh. Let's reach for our final word and I'll read out the whole thing. This is once again from Sean, also known as Blue Wizard Fags. Princess. It makes it sound like she's got hairy legs or something, but maybe we can think our way around this. So the first and utterly ridiculous, well, for now, Exquisite Corpse is the romantic jelly mould swindled the thickly forested princess. Do you know what? I think I need green tea already. And this has been brewing a little while. So let me just give this a stir. Much needed inspiration. Right, let's just try this again. So the romantic jelly mould swindled the thickly forested princess. Well, yes, it does actually feel like a lot of physical, tangible things here. So maybe I do have to take this one literally. But there's always ways to, I was going to say cheat, but it's not that at all. Ways to be creative with the concepts and ideas that we are given, to step past what they initially suggest and reach something more curious and intriguing. So a romantic jelly mould could be a seller of romantic jelly moulds and other fanciful kitchenware. Okay. And so this person swindled a thickly forested princess, which suggests to me, apart from the hairiness, a traditional fairy tale. Because of the forest, if you put a forest and a princess together, I've already got this setting in my head of a traditional fairy tale. But for this to inspire me personally, I'm not really drawn to something kind of romantic or too light-hearted. I want something a bit dark and certainly unexpected. Thickly forested could mean a princess, or someone who is a bit of a princess. I mean, you could interpret it that way and push the boundary a bit with that, who is trapped in the forest. And then someone who's going door to door selling kitchenware, and they're astonished to find this house which is completely full of trees inside, entangled with them. This young woman struggles to get to the door and answer it, and her face is covered in scratches. Her clothes are torn from all the twigs catching on her on the way to the door, and all she can do is peek out at the salesperson who's lost for words. As the princess, whether she's actually a princess, leans forward to speak to them, branches and brambles gather around her waist more tightly, like jealous fingers, holding her back, holding her inside, because there's some kind of spell that traps her inside this house, except that the inside is like the outside. That's just quite an odd concept. I would quite enjoy it, just exploring that very bizarre concept on its own. And what a predicament to be in. What kind of spell, like who cast this spell? Perhaps you can even hear birdsong from inside the most peculiar situation. And it would be quite dark. It would be darker peering into the cottage than it is outside. And also there's something about someone knocking on someone's door, offering something that seems romantic. It makes me think of the old story of Snow White being offered an apple. Someone's not quite who you think they are. There's something in this. I do quite like it, but yeah. It's very odd. Very odd indeed, as you would expect. So let's reach for another word, for another exquisite corpse. This one, if I can disentangle it from the others, is from Alessandro Bozzo. Dangerous. Who or what is dangerous? This is from, who's this? Sean again, Blue Wizard Facts. Just keep sending those words in. Hunter. Well, a hunter is dangerous, so that's interesting. Let's try for an action. Let's see, what have we got here? Whoops. Oh, they're falling out now. This one's from Paul Monteith. On the sidewalk, crossed the street with. So a dangerous hunter is out with someone. And They've crossed the street with someone. What is the significance of this, I wonder? Next word is from Alessandro Bozzo. Confused. So maybe someone who doesn't fully understand the situation, or they have a different view of it. See, last word. Oops. Oh. Again from Alessandro Bozzo. Imp. Okay. So the entire Exquisite Corpse is the dangerous hunter on the sidewalk crossed the street with the confused imp. My first impression is again of trickery, possibly of disguise, or it could be poison or drugging of this imp to try and make it confused. Or possibly this is an easily confused imp. That could be an element of their character. So that could be a starting point for why they were confused, or this situation. And the hunter, not just a hunter, but a dangerous character. So maybe he or she is doing more than just hunting. I feel like the Exquisite Corpse suggests that the imp is the one who's in danger and has been tricked into thinking that it is safe. Maybe it's employed on a short-term basis to assist the hunter. Maybe imps have certain qualities that could be useful to a hunter, depending on who or what they're hunting. I mean, they could be hunting a magical object or a specific person. They could be hunting someone down. And they need someone who's small and nimble to scout ahead for them into a place where they daren't enter on their own at first. Maybe it's not quite cowardice. Maybe it's just a place where the imp would blend in more easily and they can find out information before the hunter risks going ahead into this place. And why would they pay good money for an imp as an assistant? It makes me feel like I'd want to, as my sort of main focus to start with, it makes me want to explore the magical qualities of the imp. What makes them special and employable by this dangerous hunter? Depending on where the story's going, I mean, I'm not so into quest stories, but this could be a story of revenge or vengeance, depending on who the hunter is actually after. And again, it's funny how this question sort of is coming up now, since I was, talking about this in the introduction. It's that question of, what do you not want something to be? What are you not interested in writing? You have to find the entry point that sparks your interest and makes you feel excited to find out more. I would try writing this from the imp's perspective and just begin describing the scene and just see what comes up, see what evolves from it, because I'm thinking about sort of shifting the focus away from, what's the hunter's quest, and thinking about this imp's experience of this sort of slight naivety at the beginning and then a gradual realisation that this hunter is a lot more dangerous than they seemed to begin with, and that this quest is a lot more dangerous, and it's probably not going to earn them the money that they have been promised. Yes, that's a bit different. Okay, so I'm going to grab one last Exquisite Corpse, beginning with a word from Paul Benfield, azure. So a bright blue makes me think of a bright summer sky, which is very, very different to the sky that I see outside the window right now. But hey, it's March in Britain. Next word is from Anonymous. Wife. Okay, let's not think. I'm not thinking about Smurfs. I'm not thinking about Smurfs. I'm just moving on to an action. It's all good. No Smurfs here. Next word, well, not word, this is a phrase because it's from the action sock. This is from Melody, known as Ficaholic on Blue Sky. Skipped with. Skipped breakfast with? Or literally skipped? Ooh. Not sure about either of those, but let's just keep going. Describing word is from Lee Stokey. Careful. Well, how careful are you if you go around skipping with blue people? Okay, I'm not going to ask the question until I have the final word, which is from Paul Monteith. Trail. Ooh. Okay, so the final exquisite corpse is the azure wife, skipped with the careful trail. I have this bizarre image, quite surreal really, of someone picking up a thin pathway, a trail, lifting it off the ground, like peeling it off, and it turns into a sort of wide rope and skipping. I mean, maybe that's what's happening here. We just have to work out the reasons why and how on earth this can be possible as a starting point. The fact that the wife is blue maybe is that she's been turned into a pixie, stolen away from her family, but now she has these strange powers, these abilities to manipulate things around her. She's on the run, trying to escape these pixies who stole her away, and she's dashing through the local park, but she's invisible to other people, to humans around her. But she's noticed that things change at certain times, so the grass around her, the grass under her feet, it prickles like knives, so she has to jump onto the path. And then as she runs along the path with these pixies behind her, waving their little fists, their little blue fists at her, as the path thins and she enters a copse, the twigs scattered on the path are sort of turn into these little creatures that leap up and also start attacking her, biting her heels. And I wonder if this is something to do with her pixiehood, that at certain times, maybe dusk, because that's an in-between time, therefore there's a potential for some sort of magic, some sort of weirdness going on. Things morph and change at her touch at these times. In this time she's managed to run off, but everything seems to be attacking her. And then, but who knows why, the azure wife skipped with the careful trail. Like if you could use that to trip up the pixies that are running after you, that would make more sense. But hey, Exquisite Corpse doesn't necessarily make sense at first. It's just there to suggest stories and ideas. So I think it may be time to move on to the second round of brainstorms. But which writing prompt, which word combination shall I pick? Now I've been thinking about this, and for more than the 10-second jingle, trust me, I think there are two word combinations that are standing out to me this time. The thickly forested princess trapped inside her cottage that's full of trees, maliciously holding her prisoner while a kitchen supplies salesperson comes knocking. That's got to be one of them. Or maybe just the thickly forested princess on her own, but I've got these images now in my mind. The other one, probably the confused imp. But let's get started with the forested princess first. So I'm going to roll my 12-sided dice to select a category of interpretation or an additional element to add to a story idea and see where it takes us. Out of the cottage or deeper inside? Don't forget, you can see the full list of 12 categories in the show notes. And yes, I have an egg cup. That's just how I roll. Boom, boom. 8. A weapon. Now, are we talking about a weapon carried by the kitchen supplies seller? Is there something about the romantic jelly mould that could be used to break or weaken the spell of this indoor forest, enough for the princess to escape? Because if you remember, the full Exquisite Corpse is the romantic jelly mould swindled the thickly forested process? I want to know, what is a thickly forested process? But no, we have a thickly forested princess. But so in that case, it would be the forest or the enchantment that traps the princess that is swindled or tricked, not the princess herself. Do you see where I'm going here? Good, because I'm not sure I do. Or to add a weapon to all of this, maybe it's the princess who has a weapon. To either story idea, I would want a proper twist. It could never just be a case of kitchen supplies seller comes across a weird looking cottage in the woods, knocks on the door, it's opened by what appears to be a princess plucked out of a fairy tale. Somehow there's a magic in a jelly mould that the seller happens to have, and he or she uses it to help the princess escape. The end. No way. The more innocent this may seem at the outset, I always think the bigger and twistier the scene I crave. So, what if the princess is an evil witch in disguise? She gets a kick out of being saved, in inverted commas, by a well-meaning door-to-door salesman, or is maybe sick and tired of them knocking on her door, trying to sell her double glazing or whatever it is, and she entices them in. This is a thing that she does, and she lets them believe that somehow they are the key to her escape. Oh, my prince has come at last. Then, bam, or crackle, as the forest inside the cottage snakes around him and takes him prisoner. So she's not really prisoner at all. Maybe she has a whole room full of these guys who turn up and attempt to save her. Maybe her true form is a giant spider and she binds them in her web and lets them hang in her larder for later. So yeah, I think if you had an early sense of innocence, you'd sort of have to overdo the saccharine sweetness and innocence. Make it really like extra specially Disney and sparkly so that you can really, so that the reader gets the feeling that there's going to be a big twist. It's not that innocent. But why not throw in another twist? If you're writing this from the seller's point of view, maybe they're not quite who they seem either. Just when you think he's fallen for the trap, you find out from his reactions that he's not a salesman at all, but he came here concerned about all his fellow salesmen who kept disappearing into the woods, never to be seen again. So a little twist after the other twist. Does he have a magic that can help him overcome the giant spider witch? Maybe don't make it that easy for him. Keep your readers on their toes. Okay, lots of fun there. How about another one? This time I want a category for the confused imp. Oops, where's that gone? 6. A monster or creature for the confused imp. Well, I suppose the confused imp is already a creature. But I feel like this category is prompting us to add more creatureliness to either the imp or the story idea itself. So the full Exquisite Corpse suggested the idea of a dangerous hunter employing an imp to either assist her in a particular quest or task. Possibly she's made up her mind to exact revenge on someone or carry out an assassination job for another person. And something about the difficulties or obstacles of this particular mission has prompted her to subcontract to an imp. Like you do when you're sitting in a dark corner of a slightly dingy pub, a pub where various species of goblin, imp and the occasional troll has been known to show up. They do good meals here, though their stews have some questionable lumpy ingredients that might make an imp nervous. But over there is an imp sitting on a high stool at the bar, whining over his mead about the lack of work. His voice is a bit on the squeaky side, though no more really than your average imp. But he must be desperate if he's come in here, where the usual clientele is at least 5 times the size of him. His knobbly feet swing from the stool. The hunter sits quiet as a shadow and considers him. How silent he might be on those knobbly feet. How easily he might be able to creep into a house undetected and cause a distraction while the hunter makes her way up the stairs to face her quarry. So, where's the twist in this? Because I gotta have a twist, right? Or maybe it's just that something unexpected will go wrong. That this confused imp isn't quite so confused or naive as he pretends to be. That the bartering that follows and the low price he quickly agrees is just to make the hunter feel confident of his inexperience and to not expect any funny business. Whose perspective would you write this from? I mean, I started thinking off that it might be the imp if he was the one in danger and sort of gradually becoming aware of this, getting nervous. What is he going to do when he finds himself effectively trapped in a situation? But now I'm beginning to think that if the hunter might be tricked by him, it might work better to write it from her perspective to serve the reader with the full impact of the surprise. Who's the dangerous one now, I wonder? Maybe you have an idea. Right, before I tie things off and hand the writing prompts over to you, here are some new publishing opportunities for your short stories and poetry. Middle West Press, based in Iowa, is looking for micro stories and poems for their next anthology called Cryptids, Kaiju and Corn, Volume 2. This really caught my eye because they want fantastic stories of monsters in a 21st century American Midwest. It's just so weird. The word limit is tight at 450 words, but hey, you folks are amazing at writing stories at only 250 words. The deadline for submissions is 2nd of June, so there's plenty of time to cook up some monstrous ideas. and their anthologies are published on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and some brick and mortar bookshops. So they're out there. They're fully out there. It's not just a literary magazine. To find out more, go to middlewestpress.com. That's middlewestpress.com. Zombies Need Brains, LLC are now accepting submissions to their anthology, Where To? For a Kickstarter project, which is being funded now. I just like being able to say, yes, Zombie Needs Brain is a limited liability company. Excellent. Where To is to feature urban fantasy stories where the story revolves around were-creatures other than werewolves. They're looking for writers to be creative, to invoke another kind of were-creature. The submission deadline is the 31st of May 2026, so again, you've got some time. The word count of the stories is somewhat higher. It's expected to be an average of around 6,000 words each, with a strict maximum of 7,500 words. Go to zombiesneedbrains.com. You can also find them on Facebook to keep track of the Kickstarter's progress by just typing in Zombies Need Brains. Now, as a reminder, I don't know anything about these publishers other than the details that I've just read out about their submission call out. Whoever you choose to submit to, always run a search on Google to see what people have said about them. Just have a look around and also check their terms and conditions of publishing to be sure that that will suit you. Right. If you have any ideas you'd like to share, or a story or a poem up to 250 words long based on any of the prompts in this show, you know what to do. Go to annatizard.com/submit. If you'd like your piece to be read out in the next show, please get in touch by the Friday after the release of this show. If you write in later, I will just include your story in a later show. I would be curious to see what you might do with the confused imp. But of course, you are free to choose any prompt from the show that tickles your neurons. In the meantime, wishing you a happy Easter. And until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstorming. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.